You ever notice how we complain about getting caught in a little rain on the walk from the car to the front door, jacket on, hoodie up, waterproof boots, and we're still grumbling like the sky personally insulted us? Meanwhile, 600 years ago, a Lakota or Cheyenne family was trying to sleep through a cold, Great Plains downpour wind slashing sideways ground, turning into soup rain, sneaking under every flap of hide, and they treated it like just another night on the prairie. No roof shingles, no Gore-Tex, not a single dry piece of firewood after sunset, just buffalo hide, sweetgrass hot stones, and storm wisdom passed down through generations. And here's the wild part. Those rainstorms weren't rare disasters. They came every season. Families didn't just endure them, they slept warm through them, in shelters that modern folks think couldn't stop a garden sprinkler. So the real question is, how did they pull that off? Because if most of us got stuck outside in one of those storms, we'd be shivering like a soaked puppy in 20 minutes. But back then, they turned cold rain into a system. 7 tricks so smart, they'll make you wonder if maybe, just maybe, we're the soft ones. When the cold rain hit the plains, it never came politely. It came sideways, pushed by a cutting wind, soaking everything it touched. A single buffalo hide could take the first impact, but soon the outer layer grew heavy with wind-borne water. And that's when plains families made a choice that modern science now understands perfectly. Moisture kills. Wet skin drains heat faster than cold air. So instead of trusting one robe, they built a system. A shell within a shell. Archaeologists found the evidence in old winter camps. 2 hides, always 2. The first hide took the rain. The second kept the warmth. Zoom in. You can almost see it. The outer robe fur turned outward, catching the storm like a shield. The inner robe pulled tight against the body, its hollow buffalo fibers trapping breath warmth in a tiny microclimate. And you can picture the moment. A father pulling the second robe over his children as the night storm pushes through the camp circle, his hands working slow and steady. The quiet bravery of a long night settling in. Modern science explains why this mattered. Buffalo fur is structured like tiny tubes, each one holding warm air. Even when the outer layer is drenched, the inner layer stays dry, stays warm, stays alive. To make it work, they laid the outer hide low, letting it drape down to the soaked earth, forming a barrier against the leeward side of the teepee. The inner robe stayed close, tight, personal, and that's the payoff. Warm, dry, safe from the wind. 3 things modern gear still struggles to deliver in a storm like this. Ethnographers noted that people didn't just survive these nights, they slept through them. Because this wasn't just a blanket, it was a double shell insulation system centuries before anyone used that phrase. And in the worst moments of the rain, when the storm felt endless, they trusted the buffalo hide, their strongest friend in the season of cold rain. When the cold rain really settled over the plains, it didn't just soak clothing, it soaked the earth itself. The ground under the camp circle turned into drenched mud, heavy, pulling heat out of the body faster than any winter wind. Modern science explains it simply. The earth steals warmth 20 to 30 times faster than the air. And if you slept on that soaked ground, you lost the fight before the night even began. That's why plains families lifted their beds. A small rise, 10, maybe 20 centimeters. But in the old winter camps, that rise meant everything. It meant survival. Picture it up close. A father kneeling in the dim light, pushing stakes into the soaked earth, weaving cross pieces of wood, laying down sweetgrass bedding that smelled warm and clean even in the middle of a night storm. His hands steady, his breath slow. The quiet bravery of a long, wet night. Ethnographers noted that sweetgrass wasn't just pleasant. It resisted moisture. It trapped pockets of warm air. It fought back against the cold logic of the earth below. And when they placed their robes on top of that raised platform, a tiny microclimate formed. The rain could fall, the wind could push water beneath the teepee, but the family slept above it all. That's the payoff. No soaked earth, no lost heat, no freezing ground pulling warmth away inch by inch. 3 winds, created with nothing more than wood grass and ancestral storm wisdom. Modern campers use folding cots and air pads. Plains families built their own version centuries earlier using whatever the land offered, and it worked. Night after night, storm after storm, because on the Great Plains, staying close to the ground meant surrendering your warmth, but rising just a hand's width above it. That meant you were safe. That meant you'd make it to morning. When the cold rain stayed for hours on the plains, it didn't just hit the people, it seeped into everything they touched. Buffalo hides grew heavy, robes soaked up wind-borne water. Even the air inside the camp circle felt damp, thick, the kind of moisture that sneaks under a blanket and steals warmth in the middle of the night. Ethnographers noted something simple but deadly. Wet blankets meant dropping body temperature, hypothermia. And out here, that wasn't a medical term. It was a danger every family could feel in their bones. That's why Plains families turned to sweetgrass. Zoom in. Imagine a father lifting the edge of a buffalo robe and placing handfuls of long, fragrant sweetgrass underneath. The smell of wet earth mixes with the warm, dry scent of the grass. His hands move with calm purpose, weaving a low mattress that rises just enough above the soaked earth. His children lean in close, watching him work through the night storm. Modern science explains why it mattered. Sweetgrass doesn't mold. It doesn't trap water. Its hollow stems hold tiny pockets of air, creating a natural insulating layer even when the world outside is drenched. It was in every sense the first foam mattress of the Great Plains thousands of years before factories and memory foam. To use it right, families laid a thick bed of sweetgrass under their robes, replacing it whenever the fibers compressed or began holding moisture. Fresh grass stayed springy, breathable, warm. And the payoff was immediate. Drier bodies, warmer sleep, longer comfort. 3 small victories in a storm that gave no mercy. Archaeologists found traces of sweetgrass bedding in old winter encampments, confirming what the stories already knew. Plants became armor. Nature itself stepped in to shield the people from the cold logic of rain and earth. Sometimes survival wasn't about building bigger walls. Sometimes it was as simple as trusting the right piece of grass. When the night storm rolled across the Great Plains, the cold rain almost always came with a partner. The wind, a hard pushing wind that carried water sideways, slipping under the hide walls of the teepee and soaking one whole side of the shelter. The soaked earth, the shifting shadows, the weight of cold rain hitting the same wall over and over again. Archaeologists found evidence of this pattern in old camp circles. One side of a teepee was almost always wetter than the other. Modern science explains why. Wind funnels water. It creates a wet side and a dry side. Plains families understood that long before anyone put it in a weather textbook. Zoom in to a quiet moment inside the storm. A Cheyenne mother places her hand on the ground and feels the chill creeping in. She shifts her bedding, moves her children, rotates the buffalo robes toward the leeward side where the wind can't claw through the hide. A few steps, a small adjustment. But in a night like this, those inches mean everything. Ethnographers noted that the leeward side of a teepee could be 10, sometimes 15 degrees warmer than the windward side. It wasn't magic. It was earth logic, shielding, positioning, knowing where the storm was strongest and where it was weakest. To use the rain shadow properly, families turned their sleeping area away from the doorway. Doors faced east for ceremony, but sleeping spots shifted with the storm. The robes stayed low. The children stayed tucked into the warmest pocket of the microclimate. And the payoff was simple. Less wind, less water, more warmth. 3 small winds born from ancestral storm wisdom. Modern architects still use the same principle when they build homes that hide from prevailing winds. But out here, under hide and pole, it was a matter of survival. Sometimes staying warm wasn't about fighting the storm. It was about lying on the right side of it. When cold rain hammered the plains, it didn't just fall, it pooled, pushed, and crawled. Wind drove sheets of water against the base of the teepee until the soaked earth swallowed it like a thirsty animal. And once that water reached the bottom edge, a single gap was enough to turn a warm sleeping space into a cold trap. Moisture kills. Wet bedding finished the job. That's why plains families built a ground skirt. Picture a father kneeling in dim firelight, pressing bundles of grass, extra hides, or folded robes tight against the tipi's base. Slow, careful hands check every gap, feeling for the slightest push of windborne water. The smell of wet earth rises as he creates a sealed ring around the shelter. Modern science explains why it worked. Blocking airflow at ground level stops convective heat loss, protecting the microclimate where the family sleeps. This was the first rainfly mud skirt system centuries before modern tents. Used properly, the skirt sat low and tight, forcing rain to run outward instead of sneaking in. Heavy robes formed a flexible wall, soft but never open enough for water to breach. The payoff was simple: dry ground, steady warmth, a safe place to sleep in the storm. Sometimes survival is just keeping the water out, so the warmth can stay in. On the Great Plains, heavy rain didn't just soak the ground, it killed fire. One blast of windborne water was enough to snuff out the only heat a family had. And once the flames were gone, the teepee turned cold fast. No embers, no rising warmth, just chilled breath in the dark. That's why plains families relied on heated stones. During a rare break in the storm, a father would kneel beside fading coals, choosing stones that wouldn't crack. He heated them quickly while the rain paused, turning them until they glowed with stored warmth. The smell of wet earth mixed with the sharp scent of hot stone, and his children watched from inside their buffalo robes, waiting for the warmth to return. Modern science explains what they already knew. Stones release radiant heat slowly and steadily. Long after flames die, the stones keep giving a quiet, dependable warmth in the middle of a night storm. To use them safely, families wrap the stones in hide and place them near the raised bedding, close enough to share heat, far enough to avoid burns. And the payoff was life-saving. Warmth that didn't blow away, heat that lasted for hours, a sleeping space that stayed alive after the fire was gone. When the storm killed the flame, the stones became the teepee's silent fire. On long, rain-soaked nights, the cold didn't attack all at once. It crept in slow, tightening around the teepee, slipping through damp hides, pulling warmth from every breath a family exhaled. And when body temperature started dropping, sleeping alone was a losing battle. The cold steals from the isolated first. Ethnographers noted something powerful in the old winter camps. Plains families didn't just lie near each other. They created a heat pool, a living microclimate made of people. Zoom in. A father pulls his children close, guiding them toward the warmest pocket of the teepee. Adults form the outer ring, taking the brunt of the night storm. The little ones settle inside, wrapped in buffalo robes that hold shared heat like a quiet heartbeat. The smell of wet earth mixes with the warm scent of hide. The storm pushes, the family holds. Modern science now understands why this works. When bodies nest together, they cut convective heat loss. They pool warmth. They slow the cold. One person's heat fades quickly. 3 or 4 together, it lasts. To use this technique, plains families wrapped a single large robe around the whole group, sealing the edges low to trap breath warmth. A simple act, a brilliant system, and the payoff was life-saving. Warmer, longer, safer. Shared heat outperformed any single source of warmth they had. Out on the Great Plains, the strongest blanket wasn't buffalo hide. It was family. When the night storm finally eases, the plains lie quiet again. The earth is still soaked, the air still cold, yet inside the teepee, a pocket of warmth lingers. Stone heat, shared breath, dry bedding, all held together not by machines, but by knowledge. Modern people lean on heaters, thermostats, electric blankets. Plains families relied on buffalo hide sweetgrass and a storm sense passed down through generations. And the truth is simple. In the coldest rains, survival doesn't come from technology. It comes from understanding nature, working with it, not against it. So here's the real question. If the rain turned into a freezing storm, if the night became ice, what other techniques did they have waiting in the dark?